In May 2017, a Reddit user made a post confessing to murdering his ex-girlfriend, claiming he acted in self-defense when an argument got out of hand. At first, other users wondered if the OP was a troll, but his confession was soon revealed to be true, only the reality of the situation was much worse than he had described. Let's investigate. If you enjoy internet mysteries and generally disturbing content, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can become a Ko-fi member or a channel member to gain access to uncut videos and other perks, or you can leave me a tip by clicking the thanks under this video. Thanks to anyone who considers this. On the 2nd of May 2017, a Reddit user by the name of Redasblue101, real name Ager, made a post on the Canada news subreddit titled, "Wanted for Kitchener Murderer, My Side." Kitchener is a city in Ontario, Canada. Surprisingly, the post didn't attract much attention at first. Within 4 hours, it had a total of 6 comments, one being from a bot. When it was shared on the drama subreddit though, it started to blow up, and people were baffled as to how such a shocking post flew under the radar for a while. The post read, "I understand the early judgments made by society. Distancing myself makes it seem like I'm trying to escape a crime. I'm not. I'm only trying to give myself some space and fully take in what happened before I turn myself in. The fact is, no one is more destroyed than I am. She was more than a girlfriend, a soon-to-be fiancé. She was my everything. What happened that night was nothing but tragic. Looking back, we've been in a relationship for a year and 3 months. This was the first serious long-term relationship for the both of us, so everything we did was a new experience. We travelled the world, our families met, had fights and made up. Talked seriously about marriage and kids, the whole deal. I would never physically hurt her in any way. She would occasionally hit or slap me when I said something stupid, but I'd laugh it off. She met all my friends and family. Wherever I went, she was there. She would come to my house from Kitchener every week, about an hour, starting Fridays, and would stay for 3 or 4 days. We were incredibly used to each other. The last month of our relationship, I started asking her to give me some space so I can work on my job. She started coming less and less like I asked. During March, her friend Anna got pregnant. Melinda and Anna then moved in together because Anna has a big family and wanted privacy in case she keeps the baby. I never met any of Melinda's friends at this stage, 1.2 years in. She told me all her friends only use her. That part was incredibly clear to me. They would only contact her if they needed their hair done or had boyfriend problems, including Anna. 1.3 months in, April, Melinda and I got into an argument via text and our relationship ended. I went to her apartment that day to try and talk. Every time I tried breaking up with her, she would call my mum or drive down to my house, so this time I figured I'd do the same. Upon arrival, I was confronted by Anna's brother and her boyfriend. A physical altercation took place and the police were involved. At this stage, I knew if we were to patch things up, it would be rough. We didn't see each other for a few weeks. Later on in April, Melinda and I started texting each other again. We agreed to see each other and talk. She was originally supposed to drive down to my house but felt sick, so I told her I would come and she agreed. Ager mentioned a physical altercation involving Anna's brother and her boyfriend where police got involved. He's kind of downplaying this. The incident occurred 1 month before this post and resulted in Ager being charged with breaking and entering and 2 counts of assault. After this, there was a restraining order preventing him from contacting Melinda or entering the entire Waterloo region, which includes Kitchener, the city Melinda lived in. Ager shared screenshots of the messages between him and Melinda from the 27th of April on the day they arranged to meet. At 5:15 p.m, Melinda says she just finished, I'm guessing she means work, and has half an hour before taking her dad somewhere. She says she feels so sick it's crazy. Ager replies, "Drink some water and get some rest. Don't drive here if you're feeling sick. I'll come to you." Melinda, "I don't even think I can make it to my dad. I feel that shitty. My whole body aches. I feel like I'm gonna faint." Ager, "Okay, now I'm actually worried about you." Melinda, "I'll see if my sister can drive him instead so I can do nap." Ager, "I'm going to leave work now. Gonna go home and get out of this uncomfortable suit. We'll have a relaxed conversation and I'll take care of you." Melinda, "No, stay at work. I'll nap and let you know when I'm up." Ager says he'll stay at work until 6, then at 6:29 p.m, quote, "I'm just driving home. When you're up, let me know if tonight is for sure or not." Just over an hour later, Melinda tells him she just woke up and isn't feeling any better. He replies, "I know what will make you feel better. I'll be there by 11. Melinda responds, "You can't help." And he says, "We shall see. Anyways, I'm gonna go get ready." Melinda then says she wants to run it by Anna first when she gets home so she doesn't freak out, and Ager tells her to tell Anna it's a guy who looks like him as he's kinda lost weight. Ager set off driving around an hour later, and Melinda tells him to come through the front door, not the side door, and text her when he's in the lobby. Ager says, "Yeah, I don't think I want to look at that side door ever again." I'm guessing the side door had something to do with the incident around 3 weeks prior. Melinda tells Ager to stay in his car for a bit until Anna has taken her sister Christina to the bar. She didn't want Christina to know he's coming or to see him. At 11:59 p.m, Melinda says, "I think the coast is clear," and Ager replies, "Okay, coming. Buzz me in." Although Melinda eventually seems to accept Ager coming over, at first it certainly seems like she doesn't want him to. She's ill and tells him he can't help, but he won't take the hint and basically just ignores what she's saying and insists on going. This was the final text conversation between them, and quite possibly the last text Melinda ever sent. The rest of Ager's post explained his version of what happened next. Quote, "Melinda told me Anna and her boyfriend were present. Incident from before might make things awkward. I didn't mind. Upon arrival, it was just Melinda. She said Anna went to drop Christina off at a club, Melinda's sister. She invited me to her room right away. We cuddled and talked. We never spend so much time away from each other. We just cuddled, kissed, and talked about everything. A while later, Anna came back with another friend. She asked Melinda if everything was okay, and Melinda said yes. Anna will attest to this if she is honest. We continued to talk and finally decided it was worth it to try one more time. However, Melinda didn't want anyone to know, especially her family. She said after the police were involved in a physical altercation with Anna's brother and boyfriend, things wouldn't be right if they knew right away. I agreed we would keep it on the down low until things cooled down. We continued to talk. Anna and her other friend left the house to grab some food. We both let everything out and our relationship was back on track. As I'm getting ready to leave, she asked me if I had done anything with any other girls while we were on break, or any time we were on break. I told her we needed to be honest and said yes, and told her about it. She started freaking out. Wouldn't say a word and just kept slapping me with tears in her eyes. Slaps turned into hits. I told her I was sorry, but if she didn't stop, I'd do something back. She didn't stop. I then stupidly pushed her, harder than I expected. She fell against the sink. This was the first time I ever did something physically violent towards her. I told her I was sorry. She said leave now. I began saying sorry even more and asked if I could get a hug. She was still crying. I go up to her to try and give her a hug. Almost out of nowhere, she grabs a knife by the sink. Initially, I thought she was just going to hold it to try and tell me to leave. She doesn't. She comes at me in full force, aiming towards my face. I tell her to stop. She doesn't. I tried grabbing the knife but ended up cutting my hands. After a few cuts, I lost it. I freaked out. I was scared and in a state of shock. Never in 100 years did I think she would use a knife against me. Out of shock and fear, I grab one. I hit her with it, almost blindly, a few times. I didn't know what happened. I was confused, shocked and scared. I had no intentions of that happening. When I left, I honestly thought she just passed out. Then I looked at the blood and started freaking out and just ran. I didn't know for sure she had died until the next day. I honestly had no intentions of ever doing that to her. I was protecting myself. She was with me the most. We were each other's best friends. She would tell me everything. Her deepest secrets that not even her friends or family knows. The amount of regret and sadness is beyond words. Everyone else is just reading or talking about it. I lived it. I was there. I did it. Every waking second I relive that moment. At this stage, life is really not worth it for me. Although it was out of shock and protection, I should have just accepted getting hit. Maybe I would have lived, maybe not. Anything is better than living with this. The way Ager describes the situation, it's like things went from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. I can't really blame him for pushing her away if she wouldn't stop slapping and hitting him, but he really should have just left after that. She told him to leave, and instead, he tried to force a hug onto her when she was clearly in an agitated state. That wouldn't justify her pulling a knife on him, but notice how he says he got cut because he grabbed the knife, not because she was actually stabbing him. It sounds like he still had the option to leave at this point. If he was able to grab another knife without her stabbing him, he probably could have just walked out. Yet he chose to stab her, not hit her with it, as he said, trying to downplay it. He stabbed her, then finally left, without checking she was still alive or calling an ambulance for her. His version of events already doesn't reflect good on him, but I highly doubt things went down in the way he described anyway. Some of the commenters were a bit skeptical of the post, wondering if it was all a fabricated story. When others posted articles confirming this crime had actually occurred, it was clear this wasn't a hoax. One of the articles from the 1st of May read, Melinda Vasilyev died of multiple stab wounds. Waterloo Regional Police Service officers found the 22-year-old's body in the early hours of April the 28th in her Kitchener home on Country Hill Drive. The man who has been charged with her second-degree murder is 24-year-old Ager Hasan from Hamilton. Only a few hours after the incident, his 2016 black Honda HR-V crossed the Peace Bridge into Buffalo. The last place he was seen was in a Walmart parking lot in Pennsylvania, where he was observed taking a license plate off a vehicle to put on his own, said Inspector Mike Hafner at a press conference Monday. Investigators are working with all US law enforcement agencies, including Homeland Security, Hafner said. We believe Ager Hasan is responsible for Melinda Vasilyev's death, and as such there's a Canada-wide warrant for his arrest. Hasan and Vasilyev had been in a relationship for about 1 year. Less than a month before her death, on April 3rd, Hasan had been charged with break and enter into Vasilyev's residence and 2 counts of assault. Ms. Vasilyev was not a victim to those assaults, said Hafner. Hasan was not allowed to enter Waterloo region or have contact with Vasilyev. For not obeying these court orders, he was charged with breach recognizance. Since police began their investigation on April the 28th, they've completed canvassing the neighbourhood and collecting evidence. They've also conducted numerous interviews, including with people in Hamilton, and determined the type of car Hasan drove and his license plate number. With that knowledge, they contacted border officials, but Hasan had already crossed over to the US. All Hafner could say about who Vasilia was is that she had recently moved to the area. Online, it's a different story. Melinda was such a beautiful woman and didn't deserve any of this, wrote Tia Wojtekska, who started a GoFundMe page to raise money for Vasilia's family. We want to remember her for all she was. She was kind, gentle, pure and sweet. For all who knew her, she had such an uplifting personality and made everyone around her happy. In 2 days, 200 people have raised more than $14,000 for funeral and other costs. My heart hurts and my head can't fathom the loss of your beautiful smile, wrote Vasilia's friend Julia Rubasha on Facebook. You were an amazing human and I am honoured to say I knew you. After learning that Ager really was wanted for his ex-girlfriend's murder and that he had gone on the run to the US, so many people reported the post to the Waterloo police within a few hours that Redditor stated as soon as they mentioned why they were calling, the responder asked if it was about the Reddit post. Comments on the post were a little mixed. Some offered Ager advice, telling him to get a lawyer and turn himself in, and suggesting he get his wounds examined by an expert to prove they were from self-defense. Some even tried to make him feel better about what he'd done, such as this one. Well, if OP is honest, it was clearly self-defense. Also, if OP reads this, it does suck. Think for a moment though, if you had been killed, how would Melinda take it? Is she as strong as you? Weaker? What would her family think of her? Could she deal with it? You wish you would have just accepted your fate, but then what fate would you have left Melinda to? A terrible one. It sucks for everyone involved, but that's where we are. But you may have saved her all the pain you're in. If you're truly innocent, if it was self-defense, my heart goes out to you, and her, and everyone connected. This comment is absolutely insane. It's one thing showing any level of empathy to a man who, in the absolute best case scenario, murdered his ex-girlfriend in retaliation to her threatening him with a knife, but it's something else to talk like he did her a favour in that situation. Even if the incident went down exactly as Ager described it, he still didn't really kill her in self-defense. As I said before, there is no justifying her threatening him with a knife in the first place, but she didn't actually stab him. He was injured by grabbing the knife with his hands. If she did stab him, and he retaliated by stabbing her back and it ended up killing her, then you could argue it was self-defense. But that's not what happened, by Ager's own admission. A couple of other commenters even said things like, "I'm sorry for your loss," as if he didn't cause that loss by literally murdering her. Thankfully, most of the comments were a lot more reasonable and saw the situation for what it was. Here's an example. This post sounds and looks manipulative. It just reeks of f***ed up intent. First of all, he has had physical altercations in the past with people who knew this girl. This seems like a major red flag for one. He was literally charged for breaking and entering and assault 3 weeks before her murder, pertaining to that incident. Second of all, who posts on Reddit out of the blue like this unless he was trying to set up a story? I don't know what he thinks he is going to accomplish. Murder is murder. If it's a troll, then that is just messed up, but still worth investigating, I would think. We have lost a life, a really good one from the sounds of it, and as a Canadian, I want to see every single thing possible to be done to bring this case to justice, including having to figure whether this user is a troll or the actual perpetrator. His story is strange and doesn't add up. Yes, arguments get heated, but it seems like just the way things are, things were pretty tense and angry and could have easily escalated, and that he has the premeditated intent to commit violence. But that is just speculation. We cannot prosecute the guy and put a target on his back as civilians, as people on a social media platform. I am all for the Canadian legal system doing what it has to do, and I think they should investigate this to the max if they can. They are the best to handle this. They will do the research and make the right call, whether his story is true or whether he did intend to kill her. Finally, even if an argument got escalated and the girl grabbed a knife, the news says she died of multiple stab wounds. If this was an act of defense, how did he end up stabbing her so many times? Also, that is still pretty shady as f. Did he try to run away? Did he try to disarm her? They were alone in an apartment. He could have run to the door and left. Chances are he is taller and stronger too. There are so many ways to deal with escalated arguments like this. Multiple stab wounds just sound shady as f. There was some debate over whether Ager had actually intended to murder Melinda, in the Reddit comments and in articles covering the case. In the final paragraph of his post, he said, "I'm reading the news and they are claiming it was targeted, or an act of terrorism. Why would I buy her roses that night if I was planning on killing her? I didn't even go home that night. I always have a passport in the car and decided to just get away for a few days before turning myself in or myself. If any of it was planned, I would have taken my stuff. I would have took cash. I'm in the United States with $200, no clean clothes, nothing. I didn't intend on any of it. It was out of fear and protecting myself alongside shock. I'm sorry to everyone, especially Melinda's family. I know it will not be accepted, but no, I didn't mean anything bad to happen that night when I went there. Rest in peace, my beautiful. I hope you forgive me in the afterlife." Ager also shared an Imgur album full of photos of him and Melinda, with captions like, "What I do to get this one more time," and "She was my energy when my own was gone." He even had the audacity to leave a message to her friend and roommate Anna, quote, "Honestly, Anna, I met you twice, so I don't know you. After she moved in with you, she started acting differently and aggressive. I don't know what you put in her head. I'm not blaming you, but I just wish you'd have been a better friend to her. She used to show me texts of you telling her, 'Screw your boyfriend, let's go out and club.' I'm not saying it was your fault for the initial April breakup, but I know you had something to do with it. Everything else that followed was unfortunate. All I'm saying is life was better without you. Take care." What a way to rub salt in the wound after Ager literally just killed Anna's friend. Despite him saying he isn't blaming her, I think he is subtly trying to make her feel like it's partly her fault, implying that everything was perfect until she moved in with Melinda. In reality, Anna was probably a good friend who saw Ager for what he was and tried to convince Melinda she was better off without him. On the 12th of July, over 10 weeks after Melinda's death, Ager was finally arrested after an unrelated traffic stop in San Antonio, Texas. Police believed he was attempting to reach the Mexican border. So despite Ager insisting in the Reddit post that he was not trying to escape the crime, that's exactly what he did. It doesn't sound like he had any intention of turning himself in. The trial wasn't until 6 years later. I have no idea why it took so long. Ager maintained that the murder was self-defense, claiming that after Melinda attacked him, he stabbed her twice, then blacked out. He insisted he didn't intend to kill her, and after days of being pretty quiet while on the witness stand, he broke down, saying, "I should be in jail for a very long time, but I swear to God, I lost control. Convict me for life, I don't care, but I blacked out. Don't try to say I did this in my right mind. I killed her, yes. I didn't do this out of anger. I didn't do this because we didn't get back together. It happened because I was an idiot. It's all just hitting me. The judge told the jury to consider whether they believed Melinda had provoked Ager and if he was in a state of mind to commit murder. If they disagreed with the latter, they must find him not guilty of second-degree murder. They could return one of three verdicts: not guilty of second-degree murder but guilty of manslaughter, or guilty of second-degree murder. After 8 hours of deliberations, the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder and he was sentenced to life in prison. The earliest he will be eligible for parole is in 2033, when he'll be 41 years old. The information revealed at the trial casts a lot of doubt on the version of events Ager told in the Reddit post. He testified that Melinda had cut him on his hand and wrist, but that's not exactly consistent with the post, in which he claimed, quote, "I tried grabbing the knife but ended up cutting my hands." In reality, I highly doubt Melinda even threatened him with a knife, and it turns out she had been stabbed 47 times, including 27 to the neck and 6 to her chest. Ager had even used 2 separate knives. 3 of the wounds were caused by a serrated knife, and the rest were with a different knife. Both of these knives were found in Melinda's apartment. You don't stab someone 47 times with 2 different knives in self-defense. That was intentional murder. I don't believe Ager's narrative that Melinda went crazy after finding out he had been involved with other women after they broke up. The prosecution argued that he murdered her out of anger because she refused to get back together with him. That's entirely possible. Alternatively, I wonder if Ager didn't totally make up the conversation about what happened after the breakup, but it was actually Melinda that admitted to being involved with another man, and that's what caused him to fly into a fit of rage and murder her. Although she didn't seem keen on him going over that night, she did eventually accept, likely knowing he would try to get back with her. Considering the restraining order preventing him from going anywhere near her, I'm not sure she would have let him visit her just to tell him again that she didn't want to be in a relationship with him. Someone as cunning and manipulative as Ager seems to be would know exactly how to twist a situation and say the right things to convince Melinda to give him another chance. He'd probably already started before this day. It sounds like her family and friends all hated him, and Anna and her boyfriend certainly would have discouraged her from meeting him again just to tell him she didn't want to get back with him. So I think it's more plausible that she was manipulated into giving him another chance. Either way, there is no doubt in my mind that Ager intended to kill Melinda, even if it wasn't planned before he arrived at her apartment. It's depressing to think that he could get out of prison in as little as 9 years from now. He took Melinda's whole life from her, and when he's released, he'll still get to live half of his. I'll end the video with this advice. If you're a woman who is planning to break up with your male partner, especially if you've ever noticed any signs of violence from him, break up with him in public. Do not do it in the middle of a heated argument at home. Don't agree to go to a private place after to talk things through. And don't ever be in a situation where you're alone with him after the breakup. It might sound harsh, but look at how many women have been murdered in this way and tell me it's worth taking the risk. Your life is much more important than a man's feelings. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments, plus any suggestions you might have for a future video. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Huge thank you to my Ko-fi members and channel members whose names are on screen now. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in a new video.